я нога я ранен.
Russian commanders sent thousands of troops to fight against Ukraine, and somehow they managed to capture almost 20% of Ukraine's territory. But now, through multiple operations, Ukraine is taking back the occupied areas. As a result of these operations, Russia lost around 29,700 soldiers in January 2026 alone. That's roughly 990 Russian soldiers lost every single day in the war against Ukraine. Now let's look at this operation with a clear example. A Ukrainian armored personnel carrier transported soldiers to the front line. After dropping them off at forward positions, it returned back to its base. As soon as the Ukrainian unit dismounted from their vehicle, an intense firefight began. At the same time, they remained in constant contact with their base, which was providing real-time reconnaissance from above and guiding their movement.
Що ви тут в курці сидите, пацани?
Through drone surveillance, they spotted multiple Russian soldiers hiding deep in the woods and near prepared positions.
Двигаемся! Смотрим норм!
As the Ukrainian soldiers advanced, they continued firing while repeatedly calling on the Russians to surrender and avoid further bloodshed.
Сдавайтесь!
И сколько там? Сколько стволов было наработало 62-го?
2 плюс-минус 2-3.
Их мало, давите их морально, блядь.
Сдавайся,
Despite these warnings, the unit came under heavy artillery fire from the Russian side.
Сюда стреляет. Подавляй их, подавляй.
Even under sustained fire, the Ukrainian soldiers kept moving forward without stopping. During the advance, a Russian FPV drone approached their position and exploded nearby, but it failed to cause any injuries.
Целые! Надо двигаться.
Once again, the Ukrainian soldiers called for surrender, but there was no response. They reached a dugout and threw a grenade inside.
Еще одна.
After several explosions, they carefully checked the area and confirmed that the dugout had been cleared.
Есть что? Тут нора, тут нора, понял? Влево уходит. Есть что, блядь? Сейчас, сука, выходи, у нас 30 человек, вам пи***а. Брат, я не вижу ни.
Давай. Прострельчиком. Прострел.
Виїхати туди на 12, там пи***а є, по нашому маршруту.
Есть?
Да, контролем.
Курил мы пизду, успеем как раз. Улетело? Да, туда. Плюс, скажи, бежим.
The unit then moved toward another operational area, where Russian forces were still actively firing and refusing to give up.
Слева по нас.
During this movement, one Ukrainian soldier suffered a minor shoulder injury but remained with the unit and continued the mission.
Ти цілий, братан? Да. Плюс. Нормально, братан, не сильно?
Маленькая, о, смотри.
Та там чуть-чуть осколок попав маленький в руку, в плечо.
Плечо.
Маленький осколок.
Вам треба займати найближче укриття.
The base warned them of increased FPV drone activity in the area, ordering them to proceed with extreme caution.
Осторожно, контроль небо, висока кріпость була
Все, не отвлекайся ни на что, работаем, просто работаем.
The soldiers reached another dugout, threw grenades inside, cleared it, and secured the position before moving forward.
Контроль 12, контроль 12. Где ты видишь вас? Укриття зачистили, закидали, то вже ніхто не пищить. По перехвату почув, що була команда там вилазити з бліндажів і займати льошки. Як прийняли? Термобар вже готуй в руку. Підходь. Хорошо, с***а. Ну що ти на***? Контрольте! Контроль! Все, минус. Так, сейчас. Контроль 12, сейчас 12. Аккуратно, всяка хуйня валяється під ногами. Братан, уже все чисто, зачистили. Плюс.
Due to the constant drone threat, they stayed alert at every step. Shortly after, they discovered two Russian soldiers hiding in another dugout.
Литва, это ты! Мне сказали зайти сюда, нас группа зашла поменять 6 человек. Вы вдвоем?
The Ukrainians offered them a chance to surrender, but they refused.
Где ты? Покажись, я не вижу. Это ты стрельнул? Нахуя? Ты что исполняешь? Зена контакт. Ну что ты? Подожди, я перезаряжу. Давай, привет. А ну попробуй с ним сейчас забазарить. Братан! Не, он походу здесь. Не стрелял, потолок. Да, ну это понял, когда падал. Нажал.
One of the Russian soldiers was killed during the engagement.
Сдавайся! Да!
Сдавайся, выходи, руки вгору. Сам?
Да,
Раненый?
чуть-чуть.
54, я ебу, нахуй она тебе надо.
The second soldier, a 54-year-old Russian, was captured alive.
Ложись на землю, руки за голову. Руки за голову! Замок! Кто ты по званию?
Да никто,
Рядовой?
да конечно.
Сколько служишь?
Да, 2 недели.
Ну не пи***.
Серьезно тебе говорю.
Смотри, старый, извиняй.
Не,
Мы на войне, такова жизнь.
с сегодняшнего дня, где-то час назад он
Ну вот он, смотри. Вот там перед тобой лежит тоже твой напарник.
это может он...
Вон он.
Все без резких движений.
After questioning, Ukrainian soldiers gave him a cigarette to help calm him and ease his pain. They assured him he would not be harmed. He was asked about the location of other Russian troops, then restrained as the position was fully secured. The unit continued advancing and later encountered another Russian soldier firing toward them.
Я взял. Другой тоже минус, братан?
Because of their numerical advantage and positioning, the Ukrainian soldiers neutralized him quickly. They searched the area and recovered magazines, a radio, and maps that could prove useful for future operations.
Я дивлюсь, що пішов другої руки. Граната? Да. Не помогла.
This is how the Ukrainian unit successfully cleared multiple enemy positions, captured one Russian soldier, and eliminated several others while maintaining control of the battlefield.
Ходить. Та хай побігає.
Sometimes Ukrainian soldiers prefer to launch operations early in the morning because the enemy is usually weakest at that time.
Все, пацаны, выдвигаемся на погрузку.
This particular operation was carried out in the Toretsk direction, in the Donetsk Oblast region in eastern Ukraine, targeting Russian occupying forces, which Russia claimed it had captured on February 7, 2025. The mission shown here was conducted by the Azov Brigade, and full credit goes to their official channel linked in the description. This particular operation was carried out by the Azov Brigade in the Donetsk direction. First, the soldiers were deployed into an area of occupied houses where several Russian troops were believed to be hiding. As they advanced toward the objective, they spotted a Russian soldier firing at them from inside a basement. The team reacted immediately. They returned fire and threw a grenade into the basement. The explosion was powerful. After that, they used a few more grenades to clear the position. The soldier inside was critically wounded. Although he managed to crawl out of the basement, he was severely injured and badly burned, and he died at the scene. Ukrainian soldiers then carefully cleared and inspected the basement. During the search, they recovered several items, including 2 mobile phones, a radio, a communication card, and a map, along with other equipment believed to belong to the Russian forces. After completing the first part of the operation, the unit moved to another floor where more enemy soldiers were believed to be hiding. When they reached another basement, they called out, asking if anyone was inside.
Есть кто?
A voice answered.
Кто там? Кто? Камик, с какой бригады, пацаны?
The man said he was from the Russian 9th Motorized Rifle Brigade. Ukrainian soldiers ordered him to come out slowly, without any weapon, with his hands visible and raised.
Выходи без оружия только.
The soldier followed the instructions. He came out carefully and was visibly injured in the leg, reportedly from an earlier kamikaze drone strike. The Ukrainian troops secured him and checked the entire basement to make sure no one else was hiding inside. During questioning, he repeated that he was from the 9th Motorized Rifle Brigade and claimed that the rest of his group had been killed nearby.
Девятка.
After a short on-site interrogation, the unit moved him to a safer position and took him captive.
Быстрей. Хай виходять на дорогу і ловлять його, як прийдемо.
The team then advanced to another nearby area where more Russian troops were suspected to be hiding. After clearing several houses, they identified another underground basement believed to contain enemy soldiers. A grenade was thrown inside. Causing a heavy explosion. Gunfire followed from within, confirming the presence of Russian troops. Ukrainian soldiers surrounded the entrance and threw additional grenades. Ordering those inside to surrender. Although the Russians initially claimed they were friendly,
Выходи!
the Ukrainian unit maintained control and demanded clear surrender procedures.
Давай вылезай!
After careful positioning, one Russian soldier came out, followed by two more. 3 in total. The position was secured. The underground base was destroyed. And the soldiers were captured and restrained. Shortly afterward, a Russian FPV drone approached the area. One of the Ukrainian soldiers quickly engaged and shot it down. Knowing their position had likely been exposed and that more drones could be incoming, the team immediately prepared to evacuate. An APC arrived for extraction. The unit quickly boarded with the captured soldiers and withdrew to their base for further investigation and processing. This war is no longer about dramatic breakthroughs or fast-moving armored columns racing across open fields. What we are watching now is something very different. It is a slow, grinding, tactical fight where every village, every trench line, every destroyed building becomes part of a much bigger calculation. When you look at the Russia-Ukraine war today, the first thing to understand is that it has turned into a war of endurance. In the early months, the focus was speed. Mechanized units pushed forward, large areas were captured quickly, and both sides tried to outmaneuver each other. But now, speed has been replaced by pressure. It is about who can sustain the fight longer, militarily, economically, and psychologically. One of the biggest factors shaping this battlefield is attrition. Attrition means wearing the enemy down slowly, not necessarily defeating them in one decisive battle, but reducing their strength day by day. Reports have shown extremely high casualty numbers on both sides. There have been months where Russian losses were estimated in the tens of thousands. At the same time, Ukraine has also paid a heavy price. But the real question is not just how many soldiers are lost. The real question is, can those losses be replaced fast enough and with the same level of experience? Modern warfare is not just about having more soldiers. It is about trained soldiers. When experienced troops are lost and replaced by new recruits, the overall effectiveness of a unit can drop. New soldiers may have basic training, but they do not have battlefield experience. They have not faced drones buzzing overhead, artillery landing nearby, or the stress of close quarters trench fighting.
Боком за мене, покажи ручку. Сюди?
Я просто вона
Ні.
просто пробуй вперед, не прикажу, включай.
That experience gap changes how units perform. Mistakes become more common. Coordination becomes weaker.
О!
Всі цілі!
And in a war where drones and artillery react within seconds, small mistakes can be deadly. Another major shift in this war is how technology has reshaped tactics. Drones, especially FPV drones, have transformed the battlefield. Tanks and armored vehicles were once symbols of dominance. Now, they must operate carefully. Often supported by electronic warfare systems and constant aerial reconnaissance. A vehicle moving without drone cover can be spotted and targeted within minutes. This has forced both sides to adapt. Villages that once seemed insignificant on a map have become strong points. Why? Because open ground is extremely dangerous. Minefields stretch across fields. Drones observe from above. Artillery is pre-registered on key roads and intersections. So soldiers dig in. They build trench networks. They use basements and reinforced positions.
Radio frequency, either pass it with the wounded or figure out some way.
Battles that once might have lasted hours now stretch for days or weeks over very small areas. This is why front lines often move slowly despite massive losses. A few kilometers of land can cost thousands of lives and dozens of armored vehicles. It raises an important tactical question. Is capturing a small piece of territory worth the cost? From one perspective, territory matters because it shapes defensive lines and supply routes. From another perspective, if the cost is too high, the long-term strength of an army weakens. Russia has managed to capture and hold significant territory since the start of the war. Despite heavy losses, it continues offensive operations in multiple sectors. That shows one clear thing. Russia still has the capacity and the political will to continue pushing. However, pushing forward does not automatically mean strategic victory. Each advance comes with a price in manpower, equipment, and resources. Ukraine, on the other hand, has focused heavily on layered defense. Defensive lines, minefields, anti-tank weapons, and constant drone surveillance have made rapid advances extremely difficult for Russian forces. At the same time, Ukraine launches counterattacks when opportunities appear. It is not always about large offensives. Sometimes it is about small tactical gains that improve defensive depth or disrupt Russian logistics. Logistics itself has become one of the most critical elements of this war. Supplying thousands of soldiers across hundreds of kilometers requires fuel, ammunition, medical evacuation routes, repair facilities, and communication networks. If logistics fail, even the strongest frontline unit can collapse. This is why strikes on supply depots, bridges, fuel storage, and command centers are so important. War today is not only fought by infantry in trenches, it is fought by targeting the enemy's ability to sustain that infantry. There is also a psychological layer. Soldiers on both sides operate under constant surveillance. The idea of a safe rear area barely exists near the front line. Drones can travel far. Long-range artillery can strike deep. This constant pressure affects morale. Rotations become critical. Units need rest, but rest is limited. The longer a war continues under these conditions, the more strain it puts on both armies. Another important element is adaptation. Both sides study each other's tactics. When one side finds a new method, whether it is improved drone usage, better electronic jamming, or new assault formations, the other side quickly works to counter it. This constant cycle of adaptation makes the war unpredictable. It also shows that modern warfare is less about one decisive weapon and more about integration. Combining drones, artillery, infantry, armor, and intelligence into one coordinated system. In many ways, this conflict has become a testing ground for modern military doctrine. Armored vehicles still matter, but they cannot operate alone. Infantry is essential, but it must be supported by surveillance and precision firepower. Air power plays a role, but dense air defenses limit its freedom. Every tool has strengths and weaknesses. So where does this leave the bigger picture? Despite losing large numbers of soldiers and vehicles, Russia continues offensive operations and still controls a significant portion of Ukrainian territory. That shows endurance and determination. At the same time, Ukraine continues defensive and counteroffensive actions, regaining ground in certain sectors and preventing deeper breakthroughs. That shows resilience and strategic adaptation. This war is no longer about who wins a single battle. It is about who can sustain pressure longer. Who can replace losses more effectively? Who can maintain logistics under constant attack? Who can adapt faster to new technologies and tactics? The battlefield today is shaped by trenches, drones, artillery, and slow advances measured in meters rather than miles. It is a war of systems, not just soldiers. And as long as both sides maintain the capacity to fight, the conflict remains a test of endurance strategy, and will. That is the reality of modern warfare in this conflict. Not dramatic charges across open fields, but calculated pressure, constant adaptation, and a struggle to outlast the opponent. And now, what you're about to see is another example of how fast the situation can change. There's a moment where a Ukrainian F-16 spots a large Russian convoy and strikes it before those vehicles can even reach the front. If you want to understand how modern air power is changing this war, you should definitely watch that video next, because it shows another side of this conflict that is becoming more important every single day.